Education Mobile, quality e-learning experience on the go.
Welcome back to agricultural science class. We want to study agricultural systems. And whenever that place also, the organic matter is depleting, it moves to another new place without any hope or any intention to return to the place it has left. When this is done, it is called shifting cultivation. But when the farmer has the desire to return to where he has farmed before, maybe 6 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if he should return back to any of them, it's no longer called shifting cultivation. It is called land rotation or bush fallowing. Land rotation or bush fallowing. What is bush fallowing? You know, a system whereby a farmer has, let's say, 3 or 4 different sizes of land at different places, and then he begins to cultivate one. After he leaves the other 3 to grow bush. After the soil in that place has depleted organic matter, he moves to number 2, clear the bush and continue to grow crops. He allows that first one to return back to bush. Then after some years, this one is depleting, he moves to the 3rd one. Then later he goes back to the first one. In the period of time that he has left that first one to cultivate other farms, that period of time, first one that he had left would have grown to bush and would have recycled its nutrients or organic matter. That period of time that he has left it uncultivated is called fallowing. To fallow means to be kept on, to remain unused. And that fallowing period enables the soil to recover the lost nutrients and to become brand new again. So, shifting cultivation and bush fallowing are almost the same. The difference is that in shifting cultivation, farmer does not come back to the original land, but the bush fallowing, he returns to the land he had left, having known that that land would have regained its lost nutrients. The number of years that the land has left uncultivated is regarded as the following period. Then you have the nomadic herding. Nomadic herding, pastoral farming, and ranching. They are related because the 3 of them deals with the rearing and management of livestock. Livestock like cattle, like goat, like sheep. Now, when it comes to nomadic, the nomadic farming or nomadic herding has to do with the farmers that rear farm animals, moving them from one place to another in search of green, luxurious grasses and water. This is often done by the cattle rearers in the north. They bring their cattle towards the south because when dry season sets in the north, we still have little grain plants or grasses in the south, or shrubs that the animals can feed. So the process the system of managing animals by which a farmer moves his animals around in search of food and water, not regimenting it to a particular place, that process or that system is called nomadic farming or called nomadic herding. And the farmers that are involved are called nomads. Then we have pastoral farming. Pastoral farming is the same whereby a farmer regiments his animals into a particular place. He makes them to stay in a place where they feed on the grasses and he does not move them around. When it appears that the grasses are lacking, he may go about, bring some supplement to come and feed them. More often, he grow grasses and he break it into paddocks. Let's say this is our grassland. In an attempt to maintain the grasses, he break it to 4. This is grassland. It's broken to 4 apartments. Each apartment is called paddock. So we have paddock A, paddock B, paddock C, paddock D. He now feeds his animal here for about 3 to 4 weeks. Later, he moves them to paddock B on the same grassland. Then after 2-3 weeks, he moves them to paddock C. After he moves them to paddock D. But before he moves them back to paddock A, the grasses here would have regrown. And then the animal can find something to eat. This one method is called rotational grazing. What do I call it? Rotational grazing. Rotational grazing. Rotational grazing is often practiced by pastoral farmers. They don't move the animals about. They put in a particular place and they feed them there. They provide them with water, even with medication. And to prevent the grasses from quickly running out or quickly getting overgrazed, they partition it into paddocks. Then you have ranching. Ranching is a system whereby the animals are kept in an expanded land, expanded, very big grassland, which should also be fenced. You have, and the water will be provided for them, run around, space will be provided for them, and the animals also will be washed. That means will be protected from predators. That is ranching. For ranching, the animal lives, it's like a natural environment. They don't move about, but they find grasses and shrubs to eat in that particular area. That is ranching. Then we have lay farming. Lay farming is a system of farming that combine food crops cultivation with pasture crops for the cultivation. I think again, lay farming is a system of farming that combine food crops cultivation with pasture crops for the cultivation. How is it done? The farmer will cultivate food crops, let's say maize or rice, for about a year or two. Thereafter, after you harvested the maize or rice, you quickly turn the place to a grassland where animals can feed. It now turns to a pasture where animals will be feeding. The remnant of the grasses or the remnant of the rice or maize that you planted earlier can be fed upon the grass by the animals, and then the grasses just grown can be fed upon the animal by the animals. So the mixture of food crops with pasture crops on the same piece of land is called lay farming. Now let's go to cropping systems. Now for cropping systems, I have told you this has to do entirely with the planting of crops. The first one is what called monocropping. Monocropping or sole cropping. Monocropping or sole cropping. This is a system whereby a farmer cultivates one type of crop on the same piece of land at a time. One type of crop on the same piece of land at a time. If he likes, he can plant another type of crop later. But he harvests the first type of crop and then he plants another type of crop. For example, a farmer may be planting just rice on his farmland or just maize on his farmland. Monocropping is often adopted on commercial farms. For example, if a farmer is planting maize or rice commercially, he will plant that rice. He will not plant any other thing inside. It's not mixed cropping because he want to use machine to operate it. So the planting of one type of crop on a piece of land at a time is called monocropping. Then mixed cropping. This is the planting of two or more types of crops on the same piece of land at the same time. Mixed cropping is when a farmer cultivates two or more types of crops on the same piece of land at the same time. Now, mixed cropping can be done in two ways. We have to call intercropping and interplanting. We have to call intercropping and interplanting. Intercropping is a system whereby farmer plants two types of crops on a piece of land, and the crop that he planted last is harvested first. The plant that he planted last is harvested first. That is interplanting. For example, now, a farmer may decide to plant yam on his farmland. After he planted yam, he may say, let me plant okra also in between. Yam was planted last, but he has planted okra in between. Definitely that okra will be harvested before he harvests yam. That is intercropping. He planted yam first, then he planted okra. He still harvested okra first before planting yam. That's intercropping. Intercropping is planted on two types of crops on the same piece of land. The crop planted last is harvested first. But interplanting is a system of planting two types of crops on the same piece of land, and the crop planted first is harvested first. I think again, intercrop planting is a planting of two types of crops on the same piece of land. The plant planted first is harvested first. E.g., if I planted maize on his farmland, after planted the maize, then he planted cassava. Definitely, maize matured within 3 to 4 months. Meanwhile, cassava matured within 8 to 15 months. So, definitely, it's good to harvest that maize first. He planted maize first before he planted cassava. He also harvested maize first before he harvested cassava. That is interplanting. If it's the other way around, that is intercropping. Okay, continuous cropping. Continuous cropping is a system whereby a farmer continues to cultivate on a piece of land year in, year out, continuously, without stopping, until that soil is totally depleted of organic matter. It's not an encouraged system of cropping. You don't just continue to cultivate on a piece of land continuously. So cropping continuous cropping, system whereby a farmer continues to plant on the same piece of land continuously until that piece of land has totally lost its nutrient. Then you have a crops rotation. Crops rotation. Crops rotation is a system of farming whereby a farmer cultivates different types of crops on the same piece of land and rotate it in a particular order of sequence so as to maintain the soil fertility. I take it again. Crop rotation is a system of cropping whereby a farmer cultivates different types of crops on the same piece of land and rotate them yearly in a particular sequence or order so as to maintain the soil fertility. Under crop rotation is more or less like a mixed cropping. It's not like mixed cropping, but the difference is that that particular farmland will be divided into plots or into portions, and different crops will be planted on each of the portions, and these crops will now be rotated or reshuffled in a particular order year after year in a way that organic matter will be conserved. Now, for you to do that, there's an order that must follow, or a principle, and this is called the principles of crop rotation. Under the principle of crop rotation, there are some laws. Number one, deep-rooted crops must not follow each other. Shallow-rooted crops must not follow each other. Deep-rooted crops must follow shallow-rooted crops. Crops of the same family must not follow each other, so that they do not transfer disease to one another, and again, or to each other. And again, the leguminous crops should be introduced at interval to replenish the soil with nitrogen and with organic matter. And again, a year of fallow should be allowed so that the soil can rest and regain its nutrients. I take it again. Principles of crop rotation. The principles have some laws which must be followed. Number one, deep-rooted crops must not follow each other. Shallow-rooted crops must not follow each other. Deep-rooted crops must follow shallow-rooted crops, and vice versa. Crops of the same family must not follow each other. Crops that have relative diseases should not follow each other. And at interval, legumes must be planted to enable the soil gain nutrients. And a year of rest, fallow, must be allowed. Okay, let's see a table to illustrate crop rotation. Let's say we want to look at 4 years rotation of crops. 4 years rotation of crops. For us to do this, then we divide this farmland into 4. Okay, let's say this is my farmland. I divide it into 4. So this is plot A, B, C, D. Now let's go to our rotation plan. 4. This is A, B, C, D. 4-year course. Plots, years. This is year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. Now, I want to plant on this my farm in year 1. Year 1, let's assume on plot A, I plant maize. Plot B, I plant cowpea. Plot C, I plant cassava. Plot D, I plant rice. Okay. So let's see year 1. Year 1, we plant on the plot A, we plant maize. Let it be M. On B, we plant cowpea. Let's be cow. On C, excuse me, this should be C. Okay, C should be cassava. Maize, cowpea, cassava, or let's say maize, yam, then C, cowpea, cassava. That's better. So let's say maize, yam, this is maize, C is cowpea, and D is cassava. This is year 1. Year 1, this is what I planted. When it comes to year 2, we are going to rotate it. Rotation can take any direction. It can be clockwise or anti-clockwise. Let's assume we take clockwise. If it is clockwise, A will come to B, B will come to C, C will come to C. So let A come to B. That means here we are going to plant maize. Here we are going to plant yam. Here we're going to plant cowpea. And then this one will come to A. So it become the cassava. Then in year 3, we're going to move again clockwise. Cassava will come here. Maize will come to C. Yam will come to D. Cowpea will come to A. Now, year 4, we move again. We move again year 4 clockwise. That means cowpea will come here. That means cassava. That means maize. And this one will be yam. This is called 4 years rotation of crops. So if you look at it very well, the laws are followed. Number 1, this is shallow rooted crops. So shallow rooted crops is followed by deep rooted crops. Good. This is also shallow rooted crops, deep rooted crops. So the laws are followed. The rooted crop, deep rooted crops do not follow each other. Shallow rooted crops do not follow each other. Then shallow rooted crops is followed by deep rooted crops and vice versa. Then they are not, none of them is of the same family. So crops of the same family are not following each other. Crops that are related to disease are not following each other. The only one you can do is that when you want to do another course now, you can allow a year interval to be vacant where you grow your legumes or you allow the land to rest. This is called crop rotation. Now let's go to Tangwa system. Tangwa system is a system whereby a farmer plant 3 crops and also plant full crops at the same time. I'll do it again. Tangwa system is a system whereby a farmer cultivates both 3 crops and full crops on the same piece of land. Well, you might say, how is it possible? How can we do this? Yes, it is done. The method is possible in the early years of afforestation. The method is possible in the early years of afforestation. What is afforestation? Afforestation is a process whereby a farmer plants grasses, plants trees in a place where it never existed before. Afforestation is a process whereby a farmer plants trees where trees never existed before. And now when a farmer is going to plant tree on a new place where trees have never existed before, it's going to maintain a very wide space, because the space must be wide, because when the trees grow up to become major trees, they needed space for one another. So that space must have been provided right from the time it was planted as seeds. Now when the seedlings of trees are now growing, you've got to clear the weeds for them. And after to clear the weeds for them, there'll be an open space in between trees. This open space, you can just plant full crops there. Maybe like cassava, maybe like cocoyam, maybe like yam. You plant it in between the space between the trees at the early years of the 3 crops. When the trees have now grown to maturity and have formed branches, everywhere is covered, you cannot be able to plant food crops again because everywhere is covered like a shade. But in the early years, at the beginning of the time when you planted those trees, you can use some food crop to support it. And that process is called Tangwa system. I repeat myself, Tangwa system involved the cultivation of 3 crops and food crops on the same piece of land at the same time. Monoculture. Monoculture is the planting of one type of crop year in, year out. Only one type of crop year in, year out. Let's say, for instance, if I decide to plant just only maize, year in, year out, it does not change it. It continues it until the land has lost its nutrients. Harley cropping. Harley cropping. Harley cropping is the last type of cropping we're looking at. And this involves the cultivation of full crops at the edge row of 3 crops. This one is very close to Tangwa system. Tangwa system. But the difference is that for Tangwa system, you plant the crop, food crops, in between. Let's say there's a tree here, another tree here, another tree here, another tree here, another 3 crops here. This space, you plant food crops there, like cassava or like yam or cocoyam. All this space you plant. But these are trees. These are trees. These are trees. You plant food crops there. That is Tangwa system. But when it comes to alley cropping, let's say this is a row of tree. This is another row of tree. This is another row of tree. Now the edge of this row now, you plant food crops there. Food crops, let's say maize or rice at the edge and at the edge. So alley cropping is the planting of full crops at the edge of rows of tree crops. All these put together are agricultural systems. Now, don't forget, agricultural system is broken to two. You have the farming systems, you have the cropping systems. And the farming system include the shade cultivation, bush fallowing, mixed cropping, nomadic herding, pastoral farming, ranching, and leaf farming. Whereas the cropping system includes the monocrop cropping, mixed cropping, continuous cropping, top crop rotation, tangle system, monoculture, and alley cropping. Some questions will pop up on your screen. Make effort to attempt to answer them. Should you find it difficult to answer any of the questions, don't hesitate to refer to the video. God bless you.